In this week's news, after 15 years, international aid fails to reach its goals. Future trends in religion revealed. And Hugh Jackman prepares to get apostolic.
This is InFocus Christian News and Current Affairs.
Hello, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us. I'm Kent Kingston.
And I'm Sibel Kute. Now, Kent, are you an extrovert or an introvert?
Ooh, I think probably introvert. You might not think so because I'm such a, fun, happy-go-lucky guy and I do enjoy being with people, but they exhaust me.
Completely agree.
Yeah, and I just need a break to be by myself to recharge my batteries. But look, maybe I've got that all wrong, so it's just as well that our family life educator Trafford Fisher is dropping by today to help me disentangle my personality. I'm also looking forward to meeting Christian visual artist Daniel Blyden. He's from the UK, and you were originally from the UK too, Sibel, weren't you? Do you know Daniel?
Well, the UK is small, but not that small, Ken. I grew up about 3 hours south of where he's from, but I've heard him and his friends have done a lot with the arts in their local community.
Yeah, well, look, I'll certainly be asking him about that, but for now, we'll let you get on with the news.
Thanks, Kent. In September of the year 2000, 189 countries signed up to the Millennium Development Goals, which were aimed at halving global poverty by 2015. But despite progress being made in many areas, it's clear that governments and the development organisations they fund have failed to make the impact they were aiming for. A major OECD report is critical of the focus of the aid and development community on health, education and social outcomes at the expense of security, justice and governance. According to The Guardian, countries struggling with war and other violent conflicts have lagged behind in meeting the Millennium Development Goals, despite attracting some of the largest aid packages.
I think there's been a lot of progress, particularly in areas such as education, environment sustainability, reducing child mortality, and even access to safe drinking water. I think that it's important that we focus on the positive things that have come out of the Millennium Development Goals, and it's just something that we need to now revise and look forward at the areas that need improvement.
Up to 300 Assyrian Christians are still being held hostage by the so-called Islamic State in Syria. New reports say the extremist group is demanding a $30 million ransom. The hostages were taken captive in February during an IS assault on 35 Assyrian villages in Syria's northern province of Al-Hasaka. According to Fox News, local Sunni Muslims are helping with the hostage release negotiations and passing on the message that the Assyrian Christian community will be unable to find $30 million without significant outside help. Grieving family and friends are still in shock as they come to terms with the deaths of 148 people at Garissa University College, Kenya's worst massacre since the 1998 US Embassy bombings. Student and church groups have responded with vigils and protests, while the survivors of the shooting and grenade attacks are struggling to cope with their trauma. Christians were deliberately targeted by the Al-Shabaab gunmen. Some of the first victims were students gathered for morning prayers. A memorial service was held at the Christ is the Answer Church, and local Seventh-day Adventists say they're heartbroken by the deaths of 10 of their members, including the student leader of the university congregation. 12 West Australian politicians have urged the State Health Minister to ensure that Christian symbols are included in multi-faith prayer rooms at 2 new hospitals being built in Perth. According to Fairfax Media, MP Peter Abetz contacted WA's Health Minister Kim Hames after local pastors flagged the issue with him. Mr. Hames indicated that the Christian worship resources at existing hospitals will also be provided in 2 new hospitals, which are due to open next year. In what's believed to be an historic first, the international leader of the Seventh-day Adventist Church has met with the Secretary-General of the United Nations. Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon met with Dr. Ted Wilson and other senior Adventist leaders at UN headquarters in New York. At the meeting, the church representatives expressed their appreciation for religious freedom principles upheld by the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Ban Ki-moon said he welcomed the partnership of Adventist organisations in dealing with global issues, including health, education and poverty reduction. An in-depth demographic study by the Pew Research Centre suggests Christianity will remain the world's largest religion for at least another 50 years. But the projections of population, church growth, conversion rates and migration show that if current trends continue, Christians will be a minority in Australia and New Zealand within 4 decades. And Islam will be the world's largest religion sometime after 2070. More surprising, perhaps, is the prediction that the proportion of people who claim no religion will actually drop from 16 to 13% by 2050. The reason? The non-religious predominantly live in countries with ageing populations and low birth rates. Enthusiastic claims that Jesus' bones are still in Jerusalem have been greeted with skepticism from the archaeological community. Dr. Aryeh Shimron says 10 stone coffins or ossuaries found in 1980 feature inscriptions identifying the human remains as those of Jesus, as well as his wife, brother and son. The suggestion that Jesus' family tomb has been found has attracted criticism in both religious and scientific circles. But while Dr. Shimron participated in producing a documentary with Hollywood filmmaker James Cameron, he is yet to publish his latest findings in a peer-reviewed journal. And later in the programme, the editor of Archaeological Diggings magazine, Gary Webster, will be in to explore Dr. Shimron's claims further. And in another crossover between Hollywood and the Bible, Aussie leading man Hugh Jackman will take the starring role in a new film, Apostle Paul. According to Deadline.com, Jackman will also produce the movie, together with fellow Hollywood A-listers Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. It seems moviegoers continue to have an appetite for biblical films, despite controversy over their faithfulness to the original stories. Or perhaps because of it. If his latest film is any indication, Aussie student director Nick Lindsay is showing that Australia's filmmaking reputation in the US is in safe hands.
In the back of my mind was this lingering thought, am I going to be able to even finish this thing? Am I going to find that finish line?
I Will Not Fear took out 3 awards at the recent Sunscreen Film Festival in California. Best Documentary Short, Best Cinematography and Audience Choice. Nick Lindsay, who is in his final year of film production at Southern Adventist University, directed the project.
What kind of a race are we on? We're in a race for our lives. What am I doing with my life? Is my heart right?
And that's the end of the news. Over to you, Kent.
Thanks, Sibel. It's great to see Nick Lindsay doing so well. He's actually done some work for us here at Adventist Media, so yeah, we're barracking for him. Now, after the break, I want to follow up on one of the stories that that you read before, Sibel, about the Jesus' bones. We'll have Gary Webster in to look into the ins and outs of that. A bit dubious, I think.
Thousands of years ago, a series of ancient prophecies were disguised within a system of mysterious symbols. For centuries, these remarkable predictions have been sealed to the world until now. Check out our new Secrets of Prophecy online course today in 24 beautifully illustrated free studies at www.itiswrittenoceania.tv or call 1300 300 389 for your free copy today.
Hello, welcome back. Well, in 1980 in East Jerusalem, bulldozers uncovered a tomb. It's the sort of thing that happens all the time in Jerusalem. They called it the Talpiot tomb, but inside there were a whole bunch, about 9 stone boxes called ossuaries, which has caused a bit of controversy. You probably saw it in the news bulletin earlier. Here to help us out with this is the editor of Archaeological Diggings magazine, Gary Webster. How are you, Gary?
Good, Kent. Good to be with you.
Help us out. Stone boxes,
ossuaries. These ossuaries are bone boxes. Bodies decomposed, they gathered the bones and put them in these boxes.
Okay.
And what your viewers may not have realised is that with these boxes, the reason why they're so interesting in this tomb is that one of them has the name of Jesus on it, Jesus, son of Joseph, and one has the name of, they say, Mary Magdalene.
Right? Maria, I think.
Maria, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is why, this must be the tomb of Jesus sort of thing.
So this is the family tomb of Jesus.
So they say.
So Jesus' bones are there, Mary's bones are there, Jesus' son Judah, and now they're saying Jesus' brother James, his box should have been in there as well. So as the Apostle Paul said, if the resurrection didn't happen, then our faith is in vain. So the stakes are pretty high here, aren't they?
Very high. Otherwise, Jesus is just a dead person.
Yeah.
But what is interesting is this. First of all, number one, the Jesus ossuary, the box with Jesus' name on, the son of Joseph part is pretty well right. But the Jesus is in big question. There are many differences of opinion as to what that name actually is.
So the letters are unclear?
The letters unclear, okay. The Mary Magdalene box, you see, there's no evidence for this. The name is Mariam Mara. Now, some scholars believe it's two names in actual fact. Two women had their bones in this box.
Oh, yeah,
so this is
because Mara was a woman's name.
Right, so this is very doubtful too. The two boxes that are the key linchpin for this theory are in very much question among scholars, and especially archaeologists.
Okay, it's interesting. So it's not just you saying that, there is actually a scholarly...
Absolutely. And the other thing is this, that the names, Jesus, Mary, Joseph and so on, these were very common names. We have heaps of names, about 29 names of Jesus in the 1st century, thereabouts, but from Josephus. So most scholars, most archaeologists do not go along with the idea that this is Jesus' tomb just because of the names. It's a very common line. Tom, Dick and Harry.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing we're talking about. That's the other thing. I think the other thing too is they're trying to bring this James, brother of Jesus ossuary, because this was found back in the 70s, or came to light. We don't know where it came from.
But from a different location.
From a different location. Well, it just appeared on the antiquities market, and that's another thing.
Okay.
See, for archaeology, you need to find the thing in situ, in the place, right? But this just is on the antiquities market. No one knows where it came from. Anyway, it's got James, the brother of Jesus on. So these people are trying to connect that ossuary found in the 70s with this tomb, Telpiot tomb. Okay. So if they can do that, hello, we've got another ossuary with James, brother of Jesus on it. Okay. So, but the problem with the James ossuary is this. James is certain, that name James is for sure, but the brother of Jesus is actually in another handwriting. So, and that's why it's believed this is a forgery, you see.
So the Israel Antiquities Authority actually said that.
Yeah, and even the man who owns the box, he says, well, it probably could be a forgery. It's just that I didn't forge the thing, okay? So the connecting the two is to try to get this thing moving further, but the box of James is in question. And the other thing, of course, with this latest find is this geologist, Shimon, says, hey, look, the chemicals match with the James, the son of Jesus ossuary, matches with the tomb, the Telpiot tomb. So, hello, must be from there. But the problem is, he only used 15 samples, and there are 900 tombs in Jerusalem from this time, from these ancient times, and you need a sample of 200 to 300. So scholars are they're not really taking this thing seriously.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see, Gary, if the peer-reviewed article actually comes out on this, because none has come out so far.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, thanks so much for helping us sort that out.
Good.
We'll take a short break now. We'll be back in just a moment.
Travel back in time to ancient civilizations through this bi-monthly magazine, Archaeological Diggings. This month, Diggings looks at the Shroud of Turin, one of the most studied artifacts in history. But is it really Jesus as claimed? We explore how ancient Egyptians not just adored, but literally worshipped their pets. And we also bring you the latest news from the fascinating world of archaeology. Don't miss an issue. Subscribe online or ask for Archaeological Diggings at your local newsagent.
Well, of course, if you want to know about family and relationships, who do you trust? Two men How are you, Trafford?
I'm very well. Fancy two men talking about relationships and family. But why not?
We know all about it. What do you got for us today?
I'm intrigued by the whole introvert-extrovert thing.
Okay.
Now, hey, I'm a bit of an extrovert.
Which is?
I'm energised by people. I think it's about energy. You know, people seem to get energy by spending time with lots of other people, but then you get the person who, I just love to be by myself, and they are energised by time alone.
Okay. So extroverts typically sort of the outgoing, gregarious.
That's how we measure them generally.
Life of the party, sort of.
They're so-and-so's arrived at the party. Yeah. And the introvert is the quiet person who comes in. I think that sort of character traits, but it is to me a bit about how do we charge our batteries? How do we get this sort of, you know?
Well, my question is, Trafford, what happens when a man and a woman get together, fall madly in love, get married, and it turns out one of them is an extrovert and the other is an introvert?
And it happens. They are attracted together a
Opposites
bit.
attract, eh? Yeah.
But you're right. You're implying opposites can repel.
She talks, he listens.
Yeah, well, but also, you can do that. But also, the things that attracted her, say he was the extrovert, right? And she's, this guy's energised and I love spending time with him, and it's a party.
So much fun, yeah.
You're fun, it's alive, and she loves that. But when it goes on, and she just, that could is too much for her. The key is finding mutual times for both. How do we find times that are for us, that work for both of us? Now, one always might be a little bit of a loser in some way, like, let's do something that's a bit exciting. The person, no, I need my quiet time. So what are they going to find? And I remember the psychologist used to say, I need my time, my wife needs her time, but we need our time. And I think that's the secret, but it has to be our time that's mutually agreeable.
Is there also some compromise involved there? I mean, sometimes I might not be in the mood for a party, but I'll do it for you, or I might not be in a mood for a quiet canoe over the lake, but I'll do it for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think what we've got to remember is, if we see extrovert and introvert on a continuum, right? So if I'm extrovert, that suggests I can't be an introvert. Or if I'm introvert, I can't be an extrovert. But I think if we shift that model and say all of us have times when we enjoy social interaction, and we need social interaction,
absolutely.
But we also need quiet times. But one tends to be a little bit more oriented the other. And I think you're right. If we can find times where we can say, hey, I had a great time at the party last night, you're going to do some quiet time today, what can we do together? It can work. It just takes that dialogue. Don't criticise each other, don't change each other, but find ways of accepting and working together. You can do it.
Words of wisdom. Thanks, Trafford. We didn't do too bad for two people.
We did all right for two men. Thank you, Ken.
All right, we'll be back straight after the break.
So you think you've got your future all planned out, right? Or maybe you're not sure yet what you want to do, who you want to be, but whatever path you choose to study, a great education matters. Because it doesn't just help you get a great job, it helps you prepare for what life can throw at you and live a great life. Avondale. It's education designed for life.
Hi, welcome back. Well, for me, I think one of the worst places that I have to be sometimes is a shopping mall. Terrible, soulless places. But one thing they've got is people. So the challenge is, Daniel Blyden, how to bring a soul into a shopping mall. You had a go at it in Birmingham, UK, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. A friend of mine had a shop that he was set up in a shopping mall where there was empty spaces.
Yeah. Because this is Birmingham, as we've been discussing. Yeah. It's a really rough town with a lot of...
It's not rough, but... Like basically, because of the recession and stuff, there was empty shop units. Sure. So my friend, he's a creative, he's a architectural designer, and he made a space for creatives in the city to use to basically do their stuff. He had co-working spaces in the back and an exhibition space in the front, and so I took the opportunity to set up an exhibition that could help bring spiritual matters to the community through art.
So you called this exhibition IQ, is that right?
IQ.
What did that stand for?
So the IQ was called the Innermost Questions, looking at the questions of life that we don't really stop to think about. And it was dealing with themes such as origins, where did we come from, morality, what's the difference between right and wrong, purpose, what are we here for, and destiny. where are we going? So those are the kind of 4 themes that I gave the artists to produce.
Okay, so as people are wandering through the mall, you know, thinking maybe I'll go into the shoe shop, or maybe there's a sale on in the electrical goods, they decide to wander into the IQ exhibition. What sort of reactions and responses did you get just from the general public?
Yeah, it was designed to provoke curiosity, like anyone who's curious to just come and wander in. And I think what was most engaging for them was the pieces of artwork that they could actually participate in. So there were certain pieces that had moral dilemmas and things like that. The stuff that they could actually say, oh, I agree with this or I disagree with that.
How would they indicate their agreement or disagreement?
One of the things that we had was like little voting stickers or sticky notes and things like that. Yeah, that's the main ways that they contributed, and then by the end we had a kind of a plethora of different people's opinions just dotted around.
So then you've got this sort of wall of post-it notes with people's opinions and
sticky dots and stuff.
So someone comes in who maybe isn't so enthused about the topic until they start reading the sticky notes, and then they want to put one on too.
Yeah.
Wow. Did that lead to actual conversations with people, like with you and the other people who were looking after the exhibition?
Yeah, a lot of conversations happened. There was different conversations with different people from different backgrounds. So, for example, there were people who were atheists coming in, and they really engaged with the stuff that was around what's right and wrong, moral dilemmas. And then we had other Christians from other denominations come in, and they kind of took to the artwork that had more of a Christian or biblical undercurrent. For example, I did a piece of work on the Daniel chapter 2 statue. But I kind of designed the statue so after the rock had hit it, so the statue was put down in pieces as though it was relics in a museum. I just called it the world superpowers in pieces and left it at that. And people came in and it just struck curiosity in people, and they were asking questions. And for those who
are you one of these artists, Daniel, that someone comes along and says, what does it mean, man? And you're like, hey, it can mean whatever you want it to mean, or were you actually helping them with the interpretation?
Sometimes, like if it was a piece of artwork that I didn't do, then I'd be like, yeah, it can mean what you want it to mean. What do you read from it? We could talk about that. That's interesting, sort of thing. But for example, with that piece that I was talking about, that's basically off a biblical reference, there's a clear kind of meaning that is derived from that. And I was able to kind of quickly talk them through the meaning behind that.
Wow, okay. That's fascinating. I mean, obviously people would have found it interesting and, that's interesting, and they sort of, move on to the clothes shop next door. But did you have a sense that any of the people who came along were sort of had some sort of spiritual development or moved in their spiritual journey in some way in a positive direction? Yeah,
there were definitely some people. So, for example, there was one Muslim guy who was out there with his Muslim people doing their outreach. And he wandered in, and a friend of mine had a deep conversation with him, and they were talking about the similarities between Islam and Christianity and where it's all derived from. And they had a really long conversation, and by the end of that he wanted to have further Bible studies about that because it was really interesting to him. Always seeing that Islam and Christianity are separate, to then find that they are actually from the same sort of lineage. That was interesting. And then there was another story that someone who was just going about their business, they were going from one place to another, but they didn't expect to stumble across something that would actually cause them to question everything and actually look deeper into certain things. And a friend of mine gave her, I think, A Great Controversy or Steps to Christ, one of Ellen White's books, and she said she was going to read that.
Wow.
So there was different things that happened as a result.
Man. So, I mean, I guess you've come to Australia, you've been doing workshops here at the Manifest Arts Festival, talking about using creativity for ministry. What sort of tips are you giving people in the workshops you've been taking?
Well, the whole thing about the IQ was to create an experience rather than an event. And a lot of the time when we think about evangelism, we want to kind of like push our opinions on people all the time and sort of leave it with them, but we don't often create spaces where we can be on a level playing field and actually have an exchange, an honest exchange with them.
We just want, hey, come in, sit in the hall, shut up, because I've got some Bible truth to tell you, but it's not a two-way conversation. Yeah.
And the whole thing about it was that we relied on people's curiosity, so there was nothing like, this is what you should know. It was like they wandered in and then they asked the questions, and then we started to guide them in, or share what we know. And yeah, so it was a different approach, and I think people really appreciated the fact that they actually discovered something themselves that had a profound effect on the impact of what it actually was. So that was one thing that I kind of brought across in the workshop. And also that we set ourselves up as kind of co-inquirers on the spiritual discovery as opposed to preachers. So that was...
So we're not necessarily experts. We're all on a journey. We can journey together for a while and learn from one another.
Yeah,
wow, that's incredible. Any plans for the future to do similar things, or?
Yeah. There's from that there's been a few opportunities arise. So we're looking at doing something potentially in London in July.
Oh, great.
So I'm working on that when I get back. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like exactly, but my role will be probably to facilitate more creative Christians to contribute to that exhibition and help people to curate that in London, because obviously I live in Birmingham. And work from there.
Wow. Well, hey, all the best with that. But thanks for sharing your story and your ministry with us.
Thank you.
We'll be back straight after the break.
Discover some of these artists from Psalter Music. Vintage Season.
I've heard that it's okay to show.
Ali and Leighton.
Love is patient.
The Promise.
Give thanks unto the Lord, for He is good.
Or something from the Psalter Classic series. No matter what shade of musical taste you have, you might just find something that sings to you. It's all waiting to be discovered at psaltermusic.com. Fresh and exciting original Christian music from Psalter Music.
Welcome back. Well, Kent, it looks like we need to wrap up for this week.
Yes, well, time flies when you're having fun. It was good, though, to hear how Daniel Blyden and his mates, used their skills and their interests to reach their community. I was really impressed by that.
I thought so too. It was amazing that the people they connected with would probably never even set foot in a church.
Yeah, some of them, yeah.
But the Christians have left their safe space and taken the risk.
Yeah, well, we strongly encourage that kind of behaviour. Hey, look after yourself and have a great week.
Don't be a stranger, drop us a note. The details are there on your screen. We'll see you next time.
God bless.